Roses are red, violets are blue, trim your balls, and your date will thank us too. What's up, fellas? Valentine's Day is knocking, and Manscaped is the remedy for what the love doctor ordered. His prescription? The all-new Performance Package 5.0 Ultra, designed to elevate your grooming game and shine like the heartthrob you are. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com to snag 20% off plus free shipping with our new code SHOW20. So, let's talk about the hero of Valentine's Day, shall we? The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. This electric trimmer features skin-safe technology guarding your V-Day treasure against any grooming mishaps. It also comes with their brightest LED spotlight yet. It's brighter than your best romantic smile. Perfect for precise grooming, even in the trickiest spots. Oh yeah, and it's waterproof as well, so that makes shower shaving an absolute breeze. But you know what? That's not everything the Love Doctor ordered. This package also features the Weed Whacker 2.0 nose hair trimmer, Manscaped's liquid formulations, and 2 free goodies: the Shed Travel Bag and the Boxers 2.0, because comfort is king for all my dogs. And for a happy ending, there's the Manscaped Refined Cologne. It's the Valentine's Day touch to your grooming routine. Elevate your grooming routine and set the stage for a romantically smooth celebration. And for all my bearded kings out there, Manscaped brings you the Beard Hedger Pro Kit, designed to shape your scruff effortlessly. It sculpts cheek lines and maintains beard styles, giving you that suave look for your romantic moments. Seamlessly handling even thicker beards, it's the perfect tool for a polished, date-ready appearance. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code SHOW20. That's SHOW20 at manscaped.com. 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code SHOW20 because your grooming game upgrade awaits, ready to charm your Valentine's dates. Hello everyone and welcome to the FM show. I am of course your host Tony Jameson, and as you can see if you're watching on YouTube, and of course you'll very quickly hear if you're listening via audio, obviously Aaron and Steve aren't with us again this week, but that's not a problem because I've gone and got myself an extra super special guest. Everyone, say hello to Lollujo. Lollujo, hello Kev, how are we?
Hello, everybody. Extra super special. I like that. I might get that on a t-shirt.
Mate, I try and get my sort of like my introductions as high as possible. Some hosts will reel off a list of accolades, like, you know, they've done this, they've done this, they've done this.
I'm much happier being told I'm great. That's it. Yeah, I know what I've done. I need to know you think it was good. That's the important thing.
And that is what a good host does, Kev. They put the talent over straight away. They're like, right, this guy's great, and everyone goes, oh my god, they are. If you want to tell people how great you are and tell people what you've done, Kev, let the listeners know what you have done. You can do that part of the show.
Oh my word, I've done it all. You name it. If it's related to Football Manager, I've done it. I've been making YouTube videos and Twitch streams for the last 8-9 years now. I've been playing the game itself since way back in Championship Manager 2. I have a world record attached to playing Football Manager. And there's probably some other stuff. I've broken the game on multiple occasions. I am, like I say, you name it. If it's Football Manager related, I've probably done it.
Absolutely. And that is why you are here today, to talk about, obviously, the thing you're very good at. You're, of course, one of the people who do this as a full-time job, which, again, is a very, very special thing. We'll talk about how you did that, how you transferred some of those skills, because, again, we share a common bond at this point, Kev, former educators of the world, and those transferable skills that sort of lend themselves a little bit to talking to people on camera and on podcasts. But we will start first of all, as we tend to do, with first of all, a bit of a check-in. How are you getting on? How was Christmas? How was New Year? And how's your save going?
Good to all of the above. I mean, it's the worst interview answer in the world. It's a one word. Yeah, everything's
to be
going
fair,
good.
the question wasn't great, so the answer.
Christmas was awesome. I got some time off, which is always welcome. New Year, I am straight back at it, so I don't really notice that New Year is happening. It's very much straight back into the daily videos, the daily streams, all that kind of stuff. Still averaging, since I uploaded my first video in 2015, still averaging more than one video a day, every day. So, you know, you got to get back to the grind. The saves are going really well. I've just finished my Twitch save. Just won the Champions League with Roma, which means I've got a couple more days of being able to have my Tammy Abraham Roma shirt behind me before I have to replace it with wherever we end up next in our Twitch save. Non-League to Legend is bonkers this year. I mean, it's the is it the 8th or the 9th year I've been doing this? I'm not sure off the top of my head, but this has been the oddest version of it I've ever done, because I don't know what Sports Interactive have done, but they've tweaked something to do with getting job offers. And because Non-League to Legend is all about trying to be as realistic as possible, the whole premise of it is make the same decision you make in real life, stick to realism. And they've kind of cranked the realism up a notch as well, because I've noticed in all of my saves, job offers seem very, very geographical. I did a European journeyman on Twitch where we started unemployed, ended up at Ankara Demirspor in Ankara in Turkey. The only job offer I got while I was there was to Gençler Birliği, who are also in Ankara, and the next job I got was Ankara Gücü, who are also in Ankara. It took like getting to Europa League level before I was even allowed to leave Ankara, and finally got to move across to Roma. And it's been the same thing in Non-League to Legend. I started at Tamworth. I eventually got an interview at Burton, who are just down the road from Tamworth. The only other interview I've had during the time at Burton is with Birmingham. It just seems like you can't go further afield without really forcing it. And I'm happy at Burton. So just like in real life, if I'm happy in a job, I'm not looking around. So I've been at Burton a long time. I don't know if it's the longest I've ever been at one club in Non-League to Legend, but we joined them in League Two and we're now in the Premier League. So we've been there a while and no jobs come in. So it's a weird version of Non-League to Legend this year.
It's interesting that, because part of me likes that. So like and we'll talk about the actual game mode and how we structure Non-League to Legend and what that means, potentially particularly for people who are sort of brand new to playing FM and going like some of these game modes they're here for the first time and they're like, what's Non-League to Legend? Like what? Because I'm a bit like similar to yourself. Like that's the kind of style of game I like to play, a long-term journeyman. I love starting unemployed and seeing where I end up. Now, you're saying there about SI have maybe tweaked something to make this hyper-realism of, well, would you really go to Uruguay for no money? Like, is Mrs. J going to let us up sticks and move out to there? Going, honestly, love, it'll be great. We're gonna live in Uruguay. How much are they paying you? Nothing, just exposure. I quite like the idea that there's potentially then going, honestly, you wouldn't do it. You really wouldn't. And maybe that's sort of the thing. Now we're going to learn to sort of like adjust this off. But I think if you've got to the Premier League, then maybe a couple of doors might have to open for you at this point, surely.
I mean, you would think, because, I mean, it's football cliche stuff, but very much I've taken this club as far as I can. We are still playing in the Pirelli, which they've had to bolt a load of seats onto the terraces in the Pirelli, which has taken it down to a 5,000 capacity stadium. So we're in the Premier League with a 5,000 capacity stadium. We got a little bit of a treat while they were bolting the chairs on, because they moved us to Nottingham for the year, at the Peter Shilton Stadium, which apparently exists in Nottingham. Nobody else plays there. I guess they built it for the Euros because they didn't want to go to the City Ground, I guess, for the Euros. But then 5 years later, they've not let Forest or Notts County move in. So it's just been sat there empty. So Burton got to play there for a year and then trudge back over to our tiny little Pirelli that's now got seats bolted on. We actually had a full season where we had more season ticket holders than we had seats in the stadium, which was interesting.
I love that, Jerry. Right, like the emails go out. Get your season ticket renewals because literally we can't fit you all in.
Yeah, get here early, and some of you are going to have to watch on the big screens in the car park.
I've been a fan for 40 years. I'm terribly sorry you were late, but we've given it to this guy who's really, really keen. He's been here since Thursday. So
yeah, exactly.
It's how it works now, I'm afraid. So if we explain that game mode, explain non-league to legend, because that's very much, if we are to say, very much Kev Lollujo territory, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like, it's probably what you're known for the
it's
most,
my
I would say.
thing. Yeah, it's the most popular series I do every year. It was the first proper series I ever did as well. I kind of stumbled across gold right back at the start. But it was kind of just putting a name, and again accidentally stumbling into figuring out really early on that branding a series and doing the same branded series every year was a good idea for growth. There was no plan behind it. That wasn't deliberate. At the time, League of Legends was massive, and I just thought, well, if I have the word league and the word legend in the title of the series, then that might get some clicks from there, having absolutely no idea how SEO or YouTube or anything like that works, because you don't necessarily want the League of Legends guys clicking on your Football Manager videos because they'll click off very quickly. But we kind of stumbled into the name, but the way of playing itself is the way I've kind of always played, apart from when I've had those little fun saves where you add yourself to the youth team and give everyone maximum potential and just fiddle around like that for a few years. But most of the time it was this. I would start at the club nearest to my house and I would try and play the game as realistically as possible, making the decisions that I would make in real life. And it was very much the old, anyone who remembers the LLM forums from Sports Interactive from years ago, they don't exist anymore because they were a dangerous, terrifying place that I actually got banned from at one point many years ago for doing too well.
They don't like
I must
success
have been
there, do
cheating.
they? They don't like success.
Oh, they hated it.
Yeah.
But it was based loosely on their rule set. So we have the no player search screen rule, the no staff search screen rule, the no outside knowledge. So you can't bring in the current meta super tactic. You can't download your training schedules. You can't sign players based on Wonder Kids lists. So it's very much playing within the confines of the game, signing the players your scouts recommend, bringing in the staff that apply for the jobs at your club, and kind of limiting yourself in that way. And then with the extension to that is the making the decisions you'd make in real life. And sometimes it leads to some tough decisions. Sometimes, like with me being at Burton at the moment, we're in the Premier League. We might even qualify for Europe. I'm earning decent money there, but I know full well if Aston Villa, who've been relegated to the Championship in my save, if they come in and offer me a contract, it's going to be on more money at a bigger club. And all our logic as gamers is, well, obviously you finished the job at Burton. Not in non-league to legend, you don't. I'm dropping down. I'm earning more money at Aston Villa, and I'm going to have a lovely old time.
Exactly, and they've got more than 5,000 seats, so they'll have all
well,
of
exactly,
them.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll probably bring them all back in. But you're right. It's like for me, like we say this quite a lot. Like, you know, that when we play FM, it's the story. It's all about building a story, building a narrative, and the way that obviously that you've managed to encapsulate that, that's 100% what it is, isn't it? You're playing that game as realistic as you possibly can, telling it the way that we all do, sat in front of a laptop or sat in front of our screens at home, but just being a bit more, it's like the next level, isn't it? It's like dialed up a little bit because you've got people investing in it. And what I really like, I mean, I'm one of those llamas they used to call them, wasn't it? On the forums. I'm one of the OGs. I was on the forums as well back in the day. You know, you're not allowed to post your story unless you've already played 3 seasons or there's anger.
Oh yeah, all that stuff. Yeah.
So for me, I'm fully on board with that. Now, what I find really interesting is that you've managed to get this out in YouTube form, where potentially, and correct me if I'm wrong here because I'm coming at this from potentially a slight position of ignorance, I was of the impression that people on YouTube wanted the easy route. They wanted to see things that were quite short and snappy, because a lot of people will just, as we know on this podcast, maybe play for like 3 or 4 seasons, you know? And I personally, before I got into this, would sit and binge watch non-league to legend and parts of Prem, and that, because that's my sort of vibe. You know, I'm learning Loki Doki's Journeyman. It was all the things that I was like consuming before I even got going. And yeah, just seeing this whole like, no, we're playing it this way and you're going to like it. And I love that.
I mean, the key thing you've mentioned there is yourself, Loki, me.
I mean,
there's something that the 3 of us have in common, and that's definitely the end of YouTube that I'm aiming at. I don't think I have the same audience that are watching the 10-minute highly edited rebuild videos that do 10 seasons in 10 minutes and it's just bang, 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 subtitles on the screen, explosions, everything flashing in from all that. My view is if I have tried uploading videos like that, because, try to stay relevant, try and move with the times, tried it a couple of times. My audience hated it. They not just they weren't keen, genuine hatred in the comment section. And then the next time I tried one, they just didn't watch it. They were not interested. So I think it just demonstrates that there is more to YouTube than the bit that everyone thinks that it is. And there is very much a section of YouTube, and this is my bread and butter. It's the corner of YouTube where people turn up at work, stick a video on in the background and go about their day. The amount of people who don't watch my videos, they listen to them. They'll listen to them while they're at work. They'll listen to them while they're in the car. And every now and again, I have to remind myself about, and by the way, we're 3-0 up. I haven't mentioned it, but I know there's loads of you who haven't seen the screen yet. We are winning this match. I'm going to get back to chatting about whatever I was chatting about, though. And I'm just background noise. I'm local radio. It's, and there is a massive, massive market for that. And the fact that it's consistent every day. There's a new Non-Lethal Legend out at 4 p.m. every day. I'm streaming every night. So we have stream highlights coming out every morning. There's always that new piece of content that people can it just becomes part of their daily schedule. And you can't get that with the explosions and subtitles videos because A, you can't do one of them every day. And B, I feel like the people who watch them are much less likely to watch another one from the same creator. They're not going to go out their way to find that same guy again. They're just going to try and find the next really highly engaging, flashing lights, subtitled thing.
Yeah, sort of happy to wait for another week to get that and come back on it again, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's this. I mean, I could rant on this for some time, so you're gonna have to tell me to shut up when the time comes. But it's a similar thing with TikTok in general. I remember the last time I went to VidCon when it was in London. It was very much, it had moved from being a YouTube event to very much a TikTok event. It had kind of evolved over a few years. And the big difference I noticed between TikTok VidCon and YouTube VidCon is at TikTok VidCon, there was nobody queuing up to do the meet and greets because people don't actually know the name of the people they're watching on TikTok. They don't follow them. They don't know their names. It's just like, right, that gave me 10 seconds of enjoyment. Swipe up. It might loop back around again in the algorithm, but sometimes people just fall off completely. If you swiped a couple of their TikToks, you might never see them again, and there's no way of finding them because you never knew their name. So I'm kind of at the opposite end of content from that. I'm doing the long form. It's all about long form relationship building, trying to get those people to come back every day, make them part of the club. And I'm finding as I continue to experiment, you can't really do both because the people over here hate what's over here and vice versa. I
think that's you've hit the nail on the head, really, because I'm sort of in that position as well. And looking at yourself, I know we've joked on about, we are of a similar age and a similar sort of like, so we are probably predispositioned to watch similar styles of content. Like I'm like you, I'm long form. Like I remember when podcasts first came out, I was sitting listening to 2-hour podcasts and everyone's going, it's 40-minute podcasts and nothing. I'm like, 2 hours. I want to learn about the people I'm that's being interviewed. I want to learn something from this. It was really interesting.
Right apart from anything else, a 40-minute podcast is useless because if you put that on in the gym, you got to find another one before you leave. It's absolutely useless. What use is that to anybody?
Exactly. And it's like, but it's like, we bite-sized chunks. I'm like, no, it doesn't. You're getting nothing. Like I'm like yourself, like that long form. Really interesting though when you mentioned there about people would just listen to the YouTube videos and that you'd have to be more descriptive. I genuinely never considered that before. And that's like sort of had a little sort of gestalt moment in my head for a second there. I'm like, oh God, of course. Why have I not thought of that?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to claim credit for thinking of it myself, but it came from the Twitch chat and the YouTube comments. Occasionally you would get, Twitch is quite good because it lets you know when people are just listening. You get an icon next to them, but yeah, occasionally there'd be people going, Kev, just could you give us a quick update on where we are in the league, maybe? Because I've been driving for the last 2 hours listening to this stream, and I'm not even sure if you've played any matches because you've not talked about it at all. And it just kind of focuses you back in on, oh yeah, I suppose I should mention it occasionally.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for anyone who's trying to listen to my stream while they're driving. They'd never really hear Football Manager chat, to be honest. They'd be like, "Why is he talking about monkeys again?" Like, it's just like I've been doing some sort of animal top trumps or something. But it's interesting though because you say they're listening to YouTube. I'm almost the opposite. Like, I very rarely have my phone on with the volume on, so I now sit and just preview with the subtitles going through.
Yeah.
So I'll watch it there and I'll be like, all right, you know what? Okay, that's got me involved. And I'll just spin it round and I'll watch it, but again with the subtitles on. So I'm engaged in that sense, and then I'm really involved. Okay, now you get volume. Like I go that way. So but comparing that to something like a TikTok, which again I've dipped my toe. I've dipped my toe tentatively in it and went, oh, this is weird and scary. I'm holding out, and I'm glad now they're doing longer videos because I can't get my point across in a minute, as you've already worked out with these questions. Like, I need that longer. Give me 10-minute videos. Give me 3 hours, and then you can work out whether there was a point to it. That's what I want.
Absolutely. Works for me. It's interesting you say about the subtitles thing, though. That's something I've kind of learned over the last year. So when I do the one-off videos, I do now make a point of subtitling the first 30 seconds or a minute or so, because when you are scrolling, it's the autoplay on YouTube.
Yeah.
And one of my issues over the years has been not consuming enough content of the style that I'm making. So I don't really watch Twitch. I don't watch a huge amount of YouTube. And this whole autoplay thing had kind of passed me by. And so again, someone mentioned that, and it's like, oh god, yeah, that I tried it out. That is a very good point. If you just watch the starts of my videos, it's literally just a guy in a suit in this room, and I'm there's not even Football Manager on screen for the first 30 seconds of my videos. It is me in a suit in this room, and that is probably not the most engaging thing for people who are scrolling through on autoplay. So I am getting better with the subtitles thing. But again, if I put subtitles on the intro to a Non-Lethal Legend video, oh, there'd be riots. My comment section would not be able to cope with it.
I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because once you've obviously built that long-term audience, and again, you come at it from how I view content of we're creating a community, we're all very similar people. We refer to it with our patrons, we refer to it as the squad. Like, you're one of us, sort of thing. Even though our listeners, you're all part of a squad together, a collective. And you're right. Once you've built that trust and that familiarity, then when you start to deviate ever so slightly, there will be sections of the audience going, we're doing this TikTok nonsense for it. Short of it, the intro music's different. I'm not sure I like that because I don't really think I like change. And that thumbnail, the font, you know what? I'm not a fan of that font now. And it's like, so it's great in a sense that you're getting that instant feedback, but it's also, really? Is that what we're going to pick for?
I mean, I tell you, one of my biggest challenges that I have every year is trying to get people to stick around when Non-Lethal Legend is finished. There is such a huge proportion of my audience who'll turn up every year without fail, and they'll watch every episode of Non-Lethal Legend, and it does not matter what the next series is. It'll be like, yeah, see you for the next game, Kev. I'm off now. Just try the next thing, please. Just try the next thing. You might like it. But no, they're here for that one series every year, and then they're off. And they always come back, so I guess I don't need to worry too much. But I could do the most incredible Football Manager series anyone has ever done. But if I started it in June, I'm getting a quarter of the views that I would get if I just called it Non-Lethal Legend and did it later in the year. It's and like you say, it's just, I've trained them that they get Non-Lethal Legend every year, and then they get something different every summer, and it's not the same. What I need to do is come up with a name for the summer series and use the consistent name, and then do whatever I want within it. And see if they notice. They just want the name.
I mean, that must be the concern though, because obviously with this being your job, that's literally money walking out the door, isn't it? And you're sat going, right, okay, Non-Lethal Legend pays for X amount of bills or whatever. And then once that's done, you're sort of going, oh, right, where's that? Right, okay, that bill's coming in now. Hang on, right, you lot, right, you all left, right, come back, because where have you gone? Like, I mean, that must be terrifying, surely.
Yeah, it's I mean, I guess because the process of going full time and it becoming the thing that pays the bills kind of creeps up on you relatively slowly. You kind of, or certainly I kind of got used to the the arc of the year before I was relying on it. So when I first went full time, I did it just as we were about to hit the big part of the year, and knew that I'd have to make that money last the rest of the year. I mean, I've said multiple times, if I spent everything that I earn in the launch of the game, I would not be able to pay the bills between May and September. I do not earn enough money, actual income coming in that month between May and September, to cover my bills that I've got going out. So it kind of have to be quite disciplined, and it kind of just goes into the business account, and I just pay myself a salary the same way every month. So you have it all becomes a little bit more theoretical and abstract. I see the number on the YouTube dashboard of what I've earned in November, and it's like, well, it's a nice large number, isn't it? And then it doesn't relate at all to how much I'm paying myself. So you kind of have to separate yourself from stuff like view counts and the money, because I just pay myself a normal salary like a normal person. And if there's some left over at the end of the year, we'll book a holiday. That's basically how it works.
Yeah, May to September's a long time as well, isn't it? That's not like a couple of weeks. Like, it feels very similar to when we would plan Edinburgh Fringe. Like, as comedians, we'd sort of spend all that time like looking at sort of December's where you make all your Christmas money, which is horrible. It's like, you have to earn that sort of cash. January's a bit quieter. You're leading up to the fact you're going to end up spending all this money in Edinburgh, and then you're going, oh, actually, I should probably try and earn some money in August as well, while I'm up there having spent £4,000. And then so you're like scrabbling around for gigs, going like, oh, can I get to Newcastle? Can I get to Leeds and back? Like, it's sort of Glasgow's not too far. Aberdeen's not that far, really. And it's like, oh, what am I doing? How have I ended up in this situation for the 7th year running?
Yeah, it's the stuff. It's the less glamorous side of working for yourself and being at the whim of whether other people are enjoying what you're doing or not. Because that's the mad thing. It's you can make the trip to Aberdeen, but it's kind of out of your control whether anyone's going to turn up. And whether it's mad. It's not for the faint-hearted doing this, that's for sure.
It's not, but then it seems to be, and I know we're one of the smaller games in the online space, but it still seems to be popular for people trying it. I mean, obviously, pandemic opened up a lot of doors for a lot of people, and they had nothing else to do and nowhere else to go. So, people started making YouTube and Twitch and podcasts, and the creator space got more populated then. And I mean, one of the best things that I took away from that experience was watching yourself and Ben do a creators clinic on new creators to essentially to help them, really, because when I was starting, like I didn't know how to make it. Like, despite the fact I used to be a media production lecturer, right? I left before YouTube was the thing. I was very much like, it's all going to be fine. It's going to be Vimeo. It's going to look lovely. Like, and then it turns out Vimeo is not a thing, and YouTube became very, very popular. And I backed the wrong horse there. And then I never learned how to shoot and edit for YouTube. I had this big 8-year gap between leaving education and starting like podcasting and YouTube stuff. So I was looking around going like, I was watching your videos, I was watching Jack's, I was watching Ben's, I was watching Loki's, and I was like, I think I get what they're doing, but at the same time, I don't get what they're doing. Like, and there's no place to go to learn how to do football manager videos.
As an old guy, the worst thing for me was there was no book. I couldn't go and read a book on it. It's still not a book. You have to go. I've got to go and watch young people explain it to me because they're the only ones who know.
Yeah, and I'm still, even now, looking at like, and I'm seeing like people doing some amazing stuff, like newer creators, younger creators, like the production values are like through the roof on some of them. And again, even as an editor, I'm looking going, how have they done that? Like, I can't even work that. I'm not learning how to do that. Motion graphics is not my thing, thank you. Like, but watching you and Ben dissect people's YouTube channels and give like really insightful critiques like that at that time when I was very new at it, that was so useful.
It's because and that was just the stuff we'd kind of figured out for ourselves as well. It was like we say, there wasn't especially back then. I mean, I talk about like it was so long ago. I started my channel in 2015. It's not that long ago, surely. But talking about backing the wrong horse, I spent 5 years focused on podcasts because I didn't think this video thing would take off. So, I was
a few dead podcasts as well.
Yeah, I was a little late to YouTube, but yeah, it was. There was a lot of trial and error, and I mean, Ben's one of his early claim to fame. I guess he'd mentioned the Streamer Showdown now, but early on, his big thing was, I think he was the first guy who turned a camera on in a Football Manager video. Until then, it hadn't occurred to anybody to turn a camera on and actually be in the videos. And so he obviously brought that to the table, but even things like working out what microphones to use, how to set up a microphone, lighting, you would have I mean, the amount of trial and error, the amount of lights I've bought and the trial and error I went through, because there wasn't really any guides out there at the time on how to properly light a studio, an office. Even now, I look at some people's setups and I'm very jealous of and I think I've kind of made my peace with the fact my room is too small to do it. But when you get the people who are really well lit and have the really dark, cool room behind them, it looks so cool. It's not possible in this room because if you can see me, I mean, I can touch the back wall. I'm basically in a cupboard. So there's no way to do it in here. But I spent so long trying to figure out how to get that look going. And yeah, it was all very much trial and error. You can kind of, if you look through the history of my channel, Jack's channel, Ben's channel, that American guy came along a few years later.
What's he doing these days?
Yeah, he stole all our ideas, just piggybacked along. But if you look through our channels, you can see the evolution of the thumbnails, the evolution of how we do our titles. You can see branded series names start to emerge. Non-League to Legend was first, but Park to Prem, Glory Hunter, we all realised we needed to become marketing people almost. And there was so much trial and error, figuring it out, stuff that worked, didn't work. And we kind of decided, I think we'd got to the point where so many people were asking questions that it was like, well, let's just answer them all in one go, do it all in one go. And even now, the best piece of advice that I give to a new creator now is always, don't ask me until you've done 100 videos, because if you ask me during your first 100 videos, I can tell you without watching what the feedback will be. It'll be, you need to talk more confidently and clearly, lose some of the ums and erms, you need better lighting, a better microphone and a better camera. And that's useless feedback. That's the stuff you can figure out for yourself. So do 100 videos, make sure you get better in each one of them, and then when you've done 100, then ask for some feedback, and then I can give you the more useful, like targeted specific feedback to you, because by then you've either fixed the obvious stuff or there's no hope for you. Every 100 videos.
I was just very quickly scrolling back through our DMs and just checking if I had sent that message to you in the first video.
I mean, my favorite one is the one, I should probably dig it out one day and tweet a picture of it. The one I got from Tom FM just before he started out. That's my favorite one. I think the day he passes me for subscribers, which will happen this year, I imagine. I think I might just be like, just don't remember who created you, young man. don't forget where you came from.
and I guess you're right. Like, it is that, like, looking back at it now, it does make complete sense. You're right. Like, just learn on the job. You got to do. But what I think people maybe don't consider, and as you've already mentioned, it's not just about turning a camera on, playing a bit of Football Manager, and then topping and tailing it, and that's it. It's everything. You've got to be a one-person band. Same with comedy. Like, you got to create your own posters. You got to design your own website. You got to market yourself in a correct way. You got to get your bio right. You got your social media presence on there. Moving this into content creation, you got to start designing thumbnails. You got to think about SEO. You got to think about titles. You got to, again, is your social media? You're going to do it on YouTube. You're going to do it on TikTok. You do Twitch and all these things. And it's so much to learn so quickly with no guides, and you've got that as your initial entrance exam before you get any good at it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the this always comes across as my gatekeepery bit, but it's so much harder now as well than when I did it.
Yeah.
When I did my first video, I had a 8-year-old MacBook Air on an upturned cardboard box in my garage and a £20 Logitech headset and no camera, and that was fine. That was enough. That was pretty much the standard. Cameras hadn't come in yet, and I gradually was able to kind of keep pace with changes as they were happening. So when cameras came in, I'd made just enough money to be able to buy a little Panasonic camcorder and could use that. But now, if you were to put content out like that, it isn't gonna. It's harsh to say, but you don't stand a chance. The kind of minimum now is decent microphone, decent camera, decent lighting, decent thumbnails. Even there's so many of us now who've got actual proper thumbnail designers. The days of just being able to slap it into Canva are long gone. I had a good 2 years of just slapping it into Canva and it was fine, and it ain't fine anymore. And yeah, so not only, I mean, and that kind of was the advantage that I had, because I was able to figure it out as I went along. Whereas now, you almost have to have it figured out before you start, and that seems impossibly difficult. And that's why the ones that are breaking through now are the ones that are similar to in all forms of entertainment. It's the genuinely talented lot now who are the ones who are making it, and that's the bit that you need now. That there's no way you can go and learn. You actually have to have the genuine talent for it. I'm very lucky. Didn't need it when I was coming through. I was able to kind of build the Lollujo character over time. If you go back and watch my first videos, I'm very, very wooden and stilted, and even my accent is different because I've really toned down the Fenland accent that I had when I first started, because in order to make it in this kind of thing, you kind of have to have that neutral accent that everybody can understand. So everything about what I do now is completely different, but I was able to do it as the channel was growing. Whereas now the channel doesn't start growing until you've done all that stuff. And it must be so disheartening. I went from first video to full time in 2 years. And I think, again, unless you are exceptionally talented, that time frame probably isn't realistic anymore, because you're not going to be growing while you're doing the learning. That it's and then you get the extra difficulties of, well, then how do you pay for the gear? Because I paid for the gear, the money I was making. But now, if you already need a good microphone, a good camera, and good lighting, and a good PC, that's like $3 grand,
cheap,
$4
is
grand
it?
before you start. And even then, you don't know if you're going to be any good at it. And I promise, it's not meant to be gatekeepery. By all means, give it a try, kids. But it's you've got to be fairly confident that you're going to enjoy it and be quite good at it before you get going.
And 100% on that, we've all seen, you know, newer creators, and I still class myself as a newer creator. I'm only a couple of years in, so I'm still brand new out of the box as well. Like, you see people with the all the gear crowd, and you like sort of going like, you've made 2 videos, like, but your setup is clearly incredible, like really great microphones, DSLR cameras, lighting rigs, and I'm like, you
the
might
one
not be
that made
here
me
in like
really
3
go,
weeks or something.
What? When I saw Josh Peach's first video 2 years ago, I was like, seriously, what is the point? Because that guy,
it's a TV studio, isn't it?
That guy's production quality is better than mine, and I've been full time for 5 years, and he's just come out with his first video, and it's like, well, I need an editor then, don't I? And that was pretty much the process.
I mean, we see it in podcasts as well. Like, even like this sort of style of recording now, like, you know, remotely. You look on most podcasts now on YouTube, they're in a studio together. Like, this is going to die out pretty quickly, and we're quite worried because we don't live in the same cities.
I mean, the podcast I do, there's one, I'm over near Leicester, one of us is in Peterborough, one's up in Bolton. There's no way we can meet up once. We've had those conversations because our podcast has been going like 10 or 12 years now. But if it gets to the point where we have to do it all in one place, it's not going to happen.
but it's the raising of expectations, isn't it? People just assume that's the norm now. As you say, videos now have to have this great looking thumbnail. They have to have this certain title. That the camera has to look a certain way. Like, I'm we were quite fortunate when we were redesigning the house. We've done a lot of work during the course of the year. I went from upstairs in what would have been our youngest's bedroom. We're now down in what used to be our kitchen. We've ripped all this out, and this has now become my office. And I know yourself, like I think you were working at the garage, weren't you? You redid the garage.
For years I was in the garage, and I never did a garage conversion. It was very much a case of
that was your space, and that's where you're going to be.
I hung some curtains behind the garage door to try and keep the cold out, and put some office carpet tile squares on the floor so I could roll my chair around without getting it full of concrete dust. But I was out there for years. Even now, I'm in a very the fact that the builder was able to refer to this as a fourth bedroom, I think there's very much an argument that it's absolutely not, and it is in fact a cupboard. But it is, people get quite, because I've got the nice snazzy camera with a nice depth of field, you don't necessarily notice how small it is, but I can touch that back wall from sat at my desk.
I'm amazed we had a kitchen in here. Genuinely, when they ripped it out, I was like, how does we fit a kitchen in here? This is ridiculous. Like, but I know estate agents will say if you can get a bed in it, it's a bedroom. And it's like, yeah, but what about a person to get in the bed?
The bed's going to be on its end. There's no way you're getting a bed in that is usable. I don't know if that's the right criteria.
Oh, I know, absolutely. But so, and of course that then leads into obviously this explosion, of course, of people getting involved. And like, I think what we're talking about just before we started rolling on, like, you got into it a great time, no one else is doing stuff. Yes, you had to make your own blueprint, so, but I get that's maybe something that people have got now. Yes, it's hard again to, but hey, the blueprint is there to follow. You also came into it similar to, again, our stories are relatively similar. I came into comedy whilst being a college lecturer, right? So going full-time as a comedian, my threshold for going full-time was higher than someone who was maybe 20, had just come out of university and had no, like, they weren't really paying bills. Maybe they were flat sharing a rent or something. Their job wasn't particularly well paid. Like, my threshold for going full-time as a comic with, a wife and a decent paid job was so much higher. So that even that ability level didn't matter. All those other risks of going full-time are there. And you were the same, weren't you? You're educated.
Yeah. I was a teacher, head of faculty in my school. So not like, not like the little guy teacher, big boy teacher. I kind of almost fell into being full-time accidentally.
Hello everyone, just a very quick one while this episode's on to talk to you about Patreon. Now, say for example you're listening or watching this show and thinking, hey, I could do with an extra little bit more FM show in my life. Well, good news for you, my friends, because from as little as £3 a month, you can support the podcast via Patreon, and in return, we will give you an extra exclusive episode every single Monday. That's right, an extra exclusive episode every single Monday via Patreon. It might be a FM chat, it might be me talking to someone else in the FM space, maybe a larger, wider community, who knows. Plus, you're also going to get early access to the weekly free public episodes, and there will always be a free weekly public episode, by the way, so don't worry about that. If you can't afford to support via Patreon, there will always be free content. And if you can't afford to support Patreon, then please do consider subscribing to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from, like the video if you're enjoying it, leave some comments on YouTube, follow us on all the social media, come and join the Discord, come and hang out with us over there, join the community, be part of what we're trying to grow here, because obviously the more we interact with you, the more we can start to really focus the content on what it is you actually want us to start producing. So if you're interested in some bonus stuff, come and visit us, patreon.com/the FM Show Pod, or alternatively, or at the very least, consider subscribing to all the channels and all the social medias, drop us a like, leave us a comment. Back to the episode.
I kind of almost fell into being full-time accidentally. Because I needed to have 6 months off of work regardless. I needed to be at home. My son was refusing to go to school. He's autistic. He was really, really struggling. So I needed to be at home to help support the process of getting him back into school. So we kind of had got to the point where, okay, I am going to leave teaching at the end of this academic year. I teach in-demand subject. I'm a computer science teacher. So I could I could have a job lined up for this Monday if I decided I wanted one. It's not a difficult job for me to go and get. There's a massive shortage of people who can do what I do or did. So I knew it was something that I could step away from and then relatively easily get back into. So rather than deciding I was going to go full time, we never really made the decision that I was going full time on YouTube. It was very much a case of, right, I'm leaving at the end of this academic year. I handed in my notice in the February. So I had 6 months lead in to when I was going to stop teaching. And we had a bit of money saved up anyway. We had a little bit of a cushion, and we just basically spent 6 months. I really doubled down on the content creation, and during that last 6 months of teaching, I was doing a daily Football Manager video, a daily vlog, and I was streaming on Twitch until the school made me stop, because I wasn't allowed to stream on Twitch anymore. But I was really, really going for it. And then we got to July when I left, and obviously still paid for 6 more weeks. The benefits of being a teacher. Didn't stop getting paid until the end of August. So I effectively went full time in July, but with the cushion. But then my first month as a full-time content creator, that's September 2017, I earned less than £200. And it was like, well, this is obviously not sustainable. I am obviously going to be going back to school in January. But then, of course, as we were talking about before, that year's Football Manager came out. I guess it would have been FM 18. That came out and just exploded. Non-League to Legend picked up loads and loads of views. And it got to January and we were like, we've done quite well on that launch. I think we can make it to Easter. And so then it was a case of, well, I'm not going to apply for a new job yet. Let's see if I can get to Easter. And then let's see if I can make it to the end of that academic year. And it wasn't until I was sort of 2 or 3 years in that we sat and actually had the conversation of, so I guess I'm not going back to teaching. I guess this is what I do now, because he's been back at school 2 years and I'm still just sitting in the garage every day playing computer games. So I suppose this is what I do now.
It's great, isn't it? That it's almost that short termism, isn't it? And I don't know whether it's a trait with people of our age or whatever, as compared to younger people. But we see people now coming into this space going like, "Oh, I want to be a full-time creator." You're like, "Oh, great. You're good. We all do, but you might need a little bit more than I want to be this, like, because I want to be an astronaut, but hey, you know what? It's going to take time, and I need to get over my fear of heights. But like, we'll get there eventually. But it was the same for us. Like, we had a bit of a buffer with redundancy, and I was like, right, well, now's the opportunity to go full time. But it was just that pressure when you know you've got bills to pay. It just gets at you and gets at you and gets at you. And, like, I felt that, as a performer, trying to link this to obviously what you do, Kev. As a performer, I felt like I wasn't able to take as many risks. I felt like I had to play gigs a little bit safer. I had to be like, right, okay, I know I could talk about X, Y, and Z, but maybe I'll just talk about this and get myself rebooked back again. Like, because I don't want to go in and like risk doing a 7 out of 10 gig when I know I can go and do a 9 or a 10 and get booked back in again. It might not be doing what I'm wanting to do, but hey, we've got bills to pay. Like, has there ever been a moment with you, in terms of how you make your content, where you've went, I would love to do this as a save, but you know what? If I do that, I'm doing this with a third of my audience.
I mean, it is a thought process that happens at the start of every save, to be honest. I mean, there's a reason when the new game comes out and everyone does their beta save, they always pick a big club, because if you don't, it gets buried. There was 1 year fairly early on, I did my beta save with Monaco, and I may as well have not bothered because nobody cared. So I learned very quickly that it had to be big clubs. And for a long, long time, I was very much led by, what do I think is going to get views? And I've killed saves really quickly if they weren't getting views. I did a save in Mexico a few years ago where the Mexican league is a weird one. And we basically won the league 4 episodes in, but hadn't won the league. We'd just won the league. You then have to win the league again. And then once you've won the league twice, you've got the chance to win the league. Mind-blowing how Mexico works. But because I was clearly confused about what was going on, but at the same time, we'd won really early, people just lost interest really, really quickly. I think we got like 15 episodes in, and I was like, right, well, I can't even afford to finish this season, so I'm going to finish the season on a live stream, and then we're starting a new season, a new save tomorrow. because this one's clearly not working. So I've binned projects off really, really quickly. It's something I'm trying to do less of. I've had a couple of saves for me in the last few years that I knew weren't going to get as many views, but there's that time of year when not many people are watching anyway. The hardcore will they'll watch me buttering toast in the morning. You know, it doesn't it doesn't matter what the save is. I'll give them any old trash. So we did a save last year with Tour in France, who is a team I got sacked by in one of the early non-league to legends, and it was an unjust sacking. Basically, I arrived just at the end of the transfer window. All the goalkeepers were injured. I couldn't sign a new one. We got relegated, and then I got sacked. Even though we'd spent the second half of this, my entire time there, I'd had no goalkeepers, which seemed harsh to be sacked off the back of that. So I wanted to go back and fix that problem. So I did that save, knowing full well that a 6th tier save in France that starts in June wasn't going to be popular, but it was like, well, it doesn't really matter because of the time of the year, so I'm just going to do it anyway. So I did it anyway. We did the same last year. I brought back my Creator Club home, and we actually did a save that split between YouTube and Twitch because I wanted to just maybe not work quite so hard for a few months. So I started recording my YouTube videos on my Twitch streams in the evening, and basically had 3 months this summer just gone where I didn't have to work during the day. I did my 3 or 4 hours in the evening, and that was my YouTube videos and my Twitch streams, and then that was it. And I kind of got a little bit of a break, which is the first proper break I'd really had since I started. So I've got myself in a position now where I can afford to do that a little bit more. It's not disastrous if I have a few months where views are a little bit lower, but it certainly in the first 5 years I couldn't have done that because I needed every single penny that came in, and because of that, I would do the saves that I knew were going to work, and if they didn't work, I'd bin them off pronto. Even streaming, for a long time I didn't enjoy streaming at all. I would say it's only in the last 2 years that I've really found my rhythm streaming and now really enjoy it. But for years I was literally streaming because I had a sponsor and I needed the money they were giving me to pay the bills. So I just kept going, even though I didn't really like it.
That's a really good point. I'm going to come back to the point that I was going to make, actually, but this is a better point, actually. Talking about you as a streamer, because you're right. There is a difference, because there has to be a difference, doesn't there, between how you are on streaming and how you are in YouTube. And it's funny you mentioned that you don't like streaming, because now I can not that I can see it, but I'm like, obviously you're a YouTuber first and foremost, and then got into streaming. It's just so much easier to have everything compacted down into 20-minute segments. I'm completely opposite. I hate the idea of YouTube because I go, well, you haven't got all the context of how we've got to here. So my YouTube videos would be like 4 hours long. I'm going, well, what happened here, right? So we did this, and that's episode 1. That's a setup. Episode 2, right? To save you watching episode 1, this has happened. This, and I've been doing myself out of views.
Fantastic.
Whereas on the stream, it's fine. I don't mind wasting all that time that way, and going, all right, yeah, it'll be fine, blah blah blah. Have we played a game yet, Tony? Not yet. No, we'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, I literally got to the point where I do completely different kinds of content on YouTube to what I do on Twitch. So on YouTube, it is very much really focusing on telling the story of the save and trying to make coherent 20-minute episodes that follow on episodically, and you have to watch the whole thing, and the story thread is strong throughout the whole thing, and that's what I always have done, and I still find that the easiest thing to do. And for a long time I kind of tried to do that with Twitch as well, but I just didn't have the concentration span to keep all those threads in my head for 3 hours. And it didn't work. So now my streams are just bonkers. They are just absolutely bonkers. My poor old editor, Chris, who has to take 3 hours of absolute lunacy and turn that into 20-minute YouTube videos every day. And he turns it around overnight, and he has young kids. I don't know how he does it. But yeah, the fact that we get a highlights video out at 10 o'clock every morning, there is no, you could give me a week and I couldn't compress those 3 hours down into 20-minute videos, and he does it every day, which is mad. But yeah, and you get people, because obviously I see the comments on the main channel and the second channel. The second channel is just the Twitch highlights, and people are like, this is a different guy. I swear this is a different guy. The content is so wildly different, and it's just because I made the decision a few years ago to just, Twitch is just where I go and have fun. I just go and play. I work on YouTube and I play on Twitch, and I just talk about whatever I feel like talking about. We did a good hour last night where behind all these football shirts, there's a map of the UK, and we literally stuck these little sticky notes on it that are color coded depending on what you call a bread roll. And we built a picture of the UK. And we didn't touch football. We didn't even have football on the screen for an hour. And obviously, I couldn't do that on YouTube, but I can do it on Twitch because people expect absolute nonsense now. And
just gonna refer to a notepad that I've got from the other night. And apologies for everyone who's listening at this point, but this is a bit too sort of behind the curtain here. So when you raided the other night, Kev, into my stream, you and your crowd turned up at the exact moment we were plotting the FM Content Creators Wrestling Federations.
Amazing.
So I'll share that list with you as to who's who. But congratulations on your title.
Marvelous. I mean, I've got one behind me, so I've already got the equipment, so that saves some setup costs.
Figured you had enough. You knew how to wear a belt. We'll just put it on you early doors. We're waiting for Tom FM's heel turn because that's going to be amazing.
I mean, I've seen him get close to the edge occasionally. I reckon if I can convince him to come to TwitchCon again this year, I think I can push him over the edge and force the heel turn, and it's going to be amazing.
Right, in that case, let's book it. We're going to sort it. But the bit I was going to mention before you mentioned that really, really interesting point was: has there been a save? Therefore, going back to this whole idea of having to do saves for viewers, has there been a save that you've done, hated? But it's just because, and you're going, I'm literally doing this because if I risk anything else, it's not worth the risk.
I don't think I've ever. No, I don't. I mean, I love Football Manager too much. I mean, people always say, "How do you play it every day? Do you get bored?" And I just don't. I love it. This is. I used to do this when I was supposed to be doing a real job. I would play Football Manager all day, every day. At least now, I'm not skiving off work. This is my work now. But I just love playing Football Manager. I've played it pretty much every day forever, and. Yeah, I mean, there's saves I won't do because I know I won't enjoy them. Yeah. Like people often tell me to go and manage the big one this year is go manage in Japan. And I just don't think I could ever learn who the players were. And if I can't build the relationship I'd have to give them all nicknames. And it would immediately just be, I mean, it's theoretically in Japan, but he's got Gary and Mick up front because he's given them nicknames so he can remember who's who. But without building the stories around the players, I wouldn't enjoy it as much. I've got to have that story bubbling away as well. So I did a save in Belarus like 3 or 4 years ago, and it was the same thing. A lot of the names were very, very similar. I got 2 seasons in and I was like, I still couldn't tell you from memory what my starting 11 is. And I'm not enjoying that. So that save, it ended. As soon as I realized I wasn't enjoying it, I ended it. So I didn't keep it going despite not enjoying it. But yeah, there are types of save that I know I won't like. I know I'm probably not going to go back to Mexico. I know I'm probably not going to go back to the MLS. I know I should probably never bother trying Brazil or Argentina because they look absurdly complicated. But yeah, I don't force myself to do stuff I wouldn't enjoy. No,
I think that's probably the best way to do it, isn't it? And I know, like, again, I've seen sort of newer people, again, myself, like sort of looking at stuff going like, right, I want to do this. And I'm not in a position where like, if I do MLS, it's going to hurt me a massive amount. Like it'll hurt me a bit, but it's not going to hurt me anywhere near, it'll hurt yourself doing MLS. But I've had like sort of my audience trying to go, hey, Tony, you know what's really, really fun, or will be fun watching you cry on, is the second division in Brazil. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that because that's horrible, right? We're just not having it at all. Yes, it'll be fun, but in the same way that an 80-game league season is not fun, we aren't doing it.
And I think a lot of the time they like the idea of the initial gag. They think the initial thing will be funny. Okay, well, let's let's see who's laughing at the end of a month of this, where I'm going to make you watch for 3 hours a day for a month.
Yeah.
And then we'll see how much you're laughing then, funny guy, because none of us are going to enjoy it at any point.
No, and then we're all going to have to agree that I was right in the end, and no one wants that, do
they? Exactly. So, yeah, that was a lesson I had to learn relatively early on. Was the viewer very rarely knows what they actually want, and that what they think they want, they don't want. The Pentagon challenge is always the big example that I bring up. People love the idea of a Pentagon until you realise it's a lot of grinding your way to that first trophy. But then once you've won it, you've already won one of the big trophies. So the next club you get to, you just move to a different continent, but you get a big job again, and you just win the next one. And then you go somewhere else and you win the next one. It just becomes, let's pick a new random club and win the Champions League within 3 years, because it's easy now because I've already won several of them. And it just, people lose interest. That's when non-league to legend dies every year. As soon as I win the Champions League for the first time, people are just like, well, there you go. It's done. I've tried, because people stop watching at the end of it. I've tried to keep it going. Like, this year's non-league to legend isn't going to end with the Champions League. It's going to end when I decide I'm a legend. Well, everyone decided that when I won the Champions League, they were going to stop watching. So who's really in charge of when this series ends?
Kev, it turns out the board reckon you're a legend already. Can we end this season? What? It's not fair. Yeah, we did a little bit of that when we did British Steel last year. Like, we were building up, and the story we had was great. We had this arc, but there was just moments in it where it made no sense as a story. Like, having to leave Celtic to go to TNS to win something in Wales, and then getting to, we were in with sort of in the shout of winning a Premier League. We were in the conversation with Spurs. So then leaving to go back to Banbridge in Northern Ireland because we hadn't won the second division.
And the mad
Northern
thing
Ireland.
is as well, leaving to go to TNS. I mean, who wants to watch a save of TNS anyway? Because you're the one professional team. It literally is just a season of hitting continue and waiting for it to just happen by itself.
It was trophy collecting, really. Like, we even turned up and we lost the first couple of games because I tried to play I was like, right, we'll play a proper tactic, it'll be great. And then the chat was just like, just use the one you used at Celtic and it'll just dominate. I was like, it will, but it'll be boring. And we just did it and it was boring. We won everything. And I was like, right, can we go somewhere else now, please? And
that's the problem with those kind of saves that people think they want. It's like, there's always going to be those kind of, the best for me, the best saves are always the organic ones. My favorite thing to do on Twitch now is to just start unemployed and see what happens. And people will be like, so what's the goal of the save? Just to have a good save. That's the goal. The goal is to have a good save, to enjoy ourselves. And so when will it be done? When we think we're finished, when we think the story is complete. And it takes a little bit of getting used to for some of them to get their head around the fact that there is no real goal, there is no real end point, but just as soon as it stops being fun, that save's done and we'll do another save. And that I've tried to kind of train my Twitch audience into that now. I think they're kind of on board with it now. But yeah, it took a little bit of training to be like, well, we're not doing a challenge because challenges are often boring.
And as well, what happens when you get to the end of it and it's like, did you complete it, Tony? No. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, great.
I mean, I did a save in Greece a few years ago where the goal was to, and again, at that point, every save I'd ever done ended with a Champions League win. We're trying to win the Champions League from a team in Greece. We did it, but we had to win the Greek league 10 years in a row before we did it, and actually got to the point where my YouTube videos for about the last 5 seasons of that save, we never included a league match. It was literally just doing the Champions League matches in the YouTube videos because the league matches were all like 6-0 wins, 7-0 wins. And that's all well and good until you realize you're trying to do daily content. And if you get knocked out of the Champions League in the group stage, you've then got to play through half a season before you can record the next day's episode. Half a season, including the summer transfers, because next day you need to be back with the group stage again. And it was a slog. Which is why now I would not set that as necessarily the winning criteria of being in a league like Greece, because it's bonkers.
It is bonkers, and it's one I'm becoming very, very familiar with at the minute. 6 seasons in, and we won one second division title. We think we're in the mix for the European spots at this point. We're trying to build a nation, and it's going very slow. Although we did have a bit of progress. We were the Greece under-19s manager for 4 matches. We beat Iceland 8-0, Italy 1-0, France 3-1, lost 3-2 to Belgium, and then the Greece under-21 job came up. So we've been promoted to the Greece
Nice.
under-21s.
See, that's
So,
quite interesting. I don't know if they've changed something in Football Manager, because when I did mine, we thought of putting the Build a Nation spin on it, and I applied for the Greek national team job like 3 times. Bear in mind, at this point, I'd won the league like 6 years in a row, completely dominant, and they just never gave me the job. They kept giving it to other people, so I just couldn't get the Greece manager's job. It was infuriating.
I've seen people try and do it from the start, but I was like, you know what? Again, let's do it organically. And I've got my eyes on Gus Poyet. When he fails in the Euros, I'm coming for his job, right? So we'll get moved up into there. You mentioned there about saves that are organic, right? Now this is obviously where our paths probably first crossed. When I first started streaming, I was hell bent on a Sunderland save, right? I was like, Sunderland till I cry. This is going to be brilliant. I bought a shirt to unveil on stream. That stream, I was sacked, right? We'd been there for 6 streams, okay? And then what happened next was quite wonderful. We simulated, well, we had an unemployed stream for the next one, and I ended up at Peterborough. And I had a blooming lovely time at Peterborough. We built up a fantastic rapport with the players, and we got ourselves some trophies. We got to the Premier League, and it was fantastic. Back and forth with yourself, being like, oh, you know, here's RJJ. Here's we had Louis Barry come in from Villa. He was a bit of a cult hero for us. We had Sammy Schmodderks, of course. We had Ronnie Edwards, who we'll talk about in a second. And of course, the Bobby Copping Award we had, where the man was getting 10s in training. So every time someone got 10, we gave it the big bobbies. But Ronnie Edwards has now turned up with my Greece save, as I've signed him for Larissa.
Yeah, see, that just, it feels like something. I would just restart the save. There's obviously something broken there. Our chairman, from the moment we signed him from Barnet when he was like 17 years old, from the moment he signed, our chairman has nicknamed him New Stadium, because the day we sell him is the day we can finally build our new stadiums. We'll be able to afford it. He is a Rolls Royce of a player. He is far too good for League One, and yeah, something ridiculous has gone on there that I am not on board with.
No, there was anger as well, because so in previous versions, I think I hadn't signed him at Sampdoria. I was in Sampdoria on the beta, and we somehow managed to get to the end of the season, and they went, it hasn't worked out, has it? And I was like, no, it hasn't. But then they signed him the following season. So I was like, oh, maybe he'll go to Italy. That'll be great. But he was just sat there like, no contract. No one was offering him anything. And I was like, Ronnie, they can't treat you like that. Come on. Remember how I treated you back in the day? Come over here. And he's like, all right, Gaffer, I'll do it. So, yeah, we've got our Rolls Royce over in Greece now, and he's having a great time.
I imagine he would. Goodness me.
Him and Joe Bellingham forming a right partnership there.
Nice. Very snazzy.
That's how you build a nation, isn't it? With players who
signing loads of English players. That sounds like one of my saves. How many English players am I allowed? Right, I'm getting all of them, and they need to try and become Greek immediately so that I can sign some more.
That's the thing. I've got them all like locked in a room going, right, none of you can play any international football at all, right? I've signed you because you're the level below, right? So here's your passports, right? Okay, you're all Greek now. So it's going to be great. So hopefully we'll see where that one ends up as we go. I suppose really we need to try and work out. We've done bits of advice for newer people. We've done bits of advice for people wanting to get in. We've talked about differences between YouTube and Twitch. Like, is there anything you feel like you haven't done? Because I mean, we said at the start, you've sort of done everything, but is there anything that you maybe be like, give me my coaching badges, give me a parking space at SI, or
I think I can talk about this now because it's been so long since it ended up falling through. But just before COVID, I was going to be doing a branded video with the FA where I was going to go to St George's Park and actually do my coaching badges as a video. And then COVID happened and it all kind of fell through, and they don't return my emails anymore. So I guess it's never going to happen now. But I was this close to actually being paid to go and do my coaching badges and have the process filmed and it be on the channel, and it was going to be so cool. And curse you, COVID.
You know what? That's the real problem with COVID, isn't it? At the end,
I know. We found the downside to it. Goodness me. But Yeah, every time I think I've done every bonkers thing that I can do to do with Football Manager, a new bonkers thing comes up. So last year we had the world record thing
Mm-hmm.
that just kind of came up out of the blue, where I have my beautiful certificate behind me, where I have the world record for longest, I forget what it is, longest game marathon, I think is what the
Yeah.
actual world record is
So,
for.
so let's talk about this then, because, and I don't know if you know this or not, but the record that you broke, or the record that I understand you broke, was from a few years back at the National Football Museum. Is that right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it was. I know there was a lot of military people who were part of the team that broke it, who were there trying to stop me breaking this one. I had to fight off the Navy at one point.
Ah, right. I've not had to fight the Navy. Now, the reason, of course, I've mentioned there was a previous world record that was at the National Football Museum for the longest continuous game of Football Manager, and
Okay.
I was part of that.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah.
So
So past the you've
robbed
obviously
that
gone
off
out
you.
and yeah, you deserve it. It was weighing me down, Kev, to be honest. That expectation there. But let's talk about that then. How did that come about? Because that was with Joe, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as with most of the crazy opportunity stuff these days, it started as an advertising campaign. So Mitchum Deodorant contacted joe.co.uk, the news site, I guess you would refer to Joe as. They basically wanted to promote their 48-hour deodorant and brainstorming some ideas. And one of them was like, well, what if we were to do a gaming thing, link it into gaming somehow? So they basically trawled through finding a gaming record, which are roughly the right length. And the one because the one I've got is longest gaming marathon playing a sports game.
Yeah.
So it had to be a sports game one. And I guess I was cheaper than a FIFA guy would have been. So they approached me and I just got the email. It was a very weird email because I've been a guest at Insomnia Gaming Festival for years now. I always go down there, so it was kind of linked. It all happened at Insomnia, so it was lots and lots of different moving parts and different people involved. But got the email come through saying we've had Joe approach us about doing a really long gaming marathon at the next Insomnia to promote the deodorant. Do you want to do it? I'm like, no. Of course I don't want to do it. And we kind of went back and forth like that for a couple of weeks and kind of eventually came round to the idea of, I mean, young Kev would like the idea of holding a Football Manager world record. So I guess I am the main motivation for doing it at this point was I want to get in the Guinness Book of Records. I was too late to get in last year's one. I don't know if I'm going to be in this year's one. But if I get my name in the Guinness Book of Records, everyone I know is getting a Guinness Book of Records for Christmas. A signed one, obviously.
obviously, yeah.
But yeah, it was just I kind of ran out of reasons not to do it. I was like, well, I'm a bit old for sitting down for 2 and a bit days. We'll get you a standing desk. All right.
Next idea.
So I can have a 10-minute break every hour. That's nice. Can I use these in one go for a nap? Yeah, you can save them. Yeah, but I'm not really going to have anywhere to nap, am I? We'll sort you a hotel. Will you? Okay.
But I like really nice coffee. We'll get you a coffee.
Yeah,
oh, no.
I mean, yeah, they literally had me a runner whose job was to go and fetch my food and drinks. Everything I came up with, they were like, no, we'll sort that for you. And it just became I can't say no. There's no excuse. I've just got to do this now, haven't I? So yeah, then I went and did it, and it was bonkers. And I lost my mind briefly on the second night. Brought myself back to life with a turkey sandwich. I guess I had low blood sugar. Turkey sandwich saved me. And yeah, it was a very odd thing. Probably the weirdest thing about it was being awake for 3 days playing Football Manager and then them expecting me to go immediately into doing loads of media about it. It's like, this is not the time for me to be on the radio or on the TV. Come to me tomorrow. But no, here's ITV News. There's BBC Radio. There's the newspaper. You've got interviews. You promised me when I was done you'd get me a really big pizza and I could go back to the hotel. Yeah, the pizza's on its way.
Hey, this fella who talks for a living's making no sense. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, exactly. It was absolutely mad. But
I remember looking at your prep sheet as well. You were tweeting out your prep, going, right, I can eat this type of food. I'm not going to have this because that's going to make me feel heavy. That's going to keep me awake. I'm going to have a bit of that. And I
I
was
have
like, the
learned so
planning
much
in
about
was so
nutrition as
good.
part of
Yeah.
this. I basically had it down to, right, I need 100 calories per hour to keep my brain ticking over, and I need to make sure that it's all relatively high protein
Yeah.
and like slow release carbs stuff. So I basically
Yeah.
survived on Huel, Subway, egg breakfast sandwiches, and ZZ chicken salads. I went through all these different websites. Right, what's at the NEC that can give me anything? I can't have anything unhealthy. What can I get that's a healthy balance? And how can I put this together? Right, okay. And then I just sent them the sheet and was like, this is what I need, and this is when I need it. We're gonna have to insist you put tape over the Huel. You can't be advertising Huel on this. So my non-specific drink, get that down me. But
Other bottled food stuffs are available.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I did so much research about nutrition and about sleep deprivation, and kind of went into it knowing what to expect. I gave up coffee for a couple of weeks leading into it because when I had a cup of coffee, I wanted to get to the point where I really needed a cup of coffee. And then when I had it, it was like super coffee. So I got to drink super coffee while I was doing this because I'd been off caffeine for a couple of weeks. And those couple of, I mean, I only had, I think, 3 coffees during the whole thing. And they were super coffees. They sorted me right out when I had to have them. But yeah, it was meticulously planned and went relatively smoothly in the end, other than the one bit of miscalculation that I didn't realize in the planning is apparently you need more calories to stay awake than you do to sleep. So the whole 100 calories an hour I'd planned, it was actually slightly underestimated because I wasn't going to be sleeping and I'd be burning more calories because I was standing up the whole time. Because after like the first 10 or 12 hours, my back was killing me. So I just stood up for the rest of it. And I was just like, yeah, I'll just stand. So obviously then my ankle was ruined for like a week afterwards because I'd been standing up for a day and a half. But yeah, that's why I started to lose my mind on the second night, because I just hadn't quite had enough, but I just had the other half of my sandwich that had been put in the fridge from earlier. And yeah, the turkey sandwich fixed me. Good old Subway turkey sandwiches.
See, people don't think that gaming is a physically exertive sport,
Oh,
but they're wrong.
I know. Exactly. All that training.
Yeah.
All that training.
Lollujo, content creator, YouTuber, athlete. That's what I'm going to start putting there now.
Absolutely.
Nutrition specialist.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if anyone wants to do an endurance event, I can give you a few pointers for a very reasonable consultancy fee. So you know where to find me.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and then this year's mad thing, getting back to my list of mad things, it was like, I don't know, the game had been out like 3 or 4 weeks, and I got an email from Xbox. And it didn't come through my management, didn't come through Football Manager, anyone. It was just Xbox had somehow got my email. I still don't know how. Asking me to get involved in this this thing where Bromley are hiring a Football Manager guy to work with them. So I'm going down to Bromley in a couple of weeks to go and film with the guy who won that, see what he's up to. And I'm now apparently working with Xbox, which is, again, like I say, every time I think I've done everything, a new piece of nonsense comes along, and it's like I just don't ever say no to anything, really. Even when I try to, as with the world record thing, even when I try to, I end up coming around to yes. So I just, most of the time, I don't even bother trying to say no anymore. It's just, if I can't immediately think of a reason not to, yeah, I'll go and do that. Why not?
Might as well. It'll be fun. And there's part of me, like, I'm on board. Like, I've never realized the stupid opportunities that come off the back of playing this video game. It's wild when you try and sit down and work it out and be like, hang on. So this has all come from me playing Football Manager. Like, remember, like, when I was young Tony and young Kev playing games, and everyone's going, you need to stop playing that video game.
This is my favorite conversation to have with my dad.
No, I don't.
The amount of times my dad would tell me to get off that computer. I'm like, I'm playing my Championship Manager. Nothing will ever come from that. Oh, won't it, Father? Oh, won't it?
Yeah, similar to yourself there with the FA and the coaching badges. Well, one of the I don't know. I've told a few people this, but one of the tour shows we did, with the stand-up show was at the University of Football Business. And again, they were sort of like, I was like, it was a brand new course they were setting up. And now they've got it at Wembley, and they've got like one at the Etihad at Man City. But the first campus was Turf Moor in Burnley. So we turned up to that, which was essentially the like pretty much a student union, really, but it's like in the ground. And I was like, oh, what's going on here then? Like, oh, well, we learn like media business, we learn like how to be an agent, we learn how to be sort of getting into the world of football. That, and I was like, oh, can we talk after the show? And they're like, yeah. Again, things that you mention but don't tend to go anywhere. But I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. We can't be having this conversation, surely.
Yeah, it is mad. I often find myself pondering what ridiculous thing can happen next, or the other. So I kind of go from one end to the other. What's the next crazy thing that's going to happen, or when are they going to realise?
Oh, they're never going to find out ever. Because you've also done the thing as well, which I guess is kind of the peak for everybody, really. If they're getting into this game, even if you're just playing it on your laptop, on your thighs, you want the recognition from the club you're managing, right?
Oh,
you want them to know that you're managing that club, and they respond with, "Go on, Gaffer, well done, congratulations!" Like I had it with Blythe Spartans; they were very, very kind to me with the stand-up show. I bizarrely ended up in a partnership with Odds Ball Club in Norway, where I had a press conference with with their sort of like their staff and Norwegian newspapers trying to do all that. And I was sent a whole bunch of like kit and esports hoodies and everything. And that they sent shirts for the boys, for my sons, which was amazing. All signed by the players. I'll try to explain that to the players. Going, he does Football Manager on the internet. Sign that. But I mean, you've had that as well, though.
I've had a few of them. I've had some from relatively low key, but still bonkers. I had, when I won the Champions League with Sevilla, their Twitter account was like, well done, Gaffer. It's like, you're a La Liga club. What's happening here? But I've gone through the full job interview process with Nuneaton, interview with the chairman. Their director of football at the time was Barry Fry's son. So I still have his phone number, and I accidentally phoned him on stream the other week. Siri, don't do anything now. Siri just rang him up, and he got like a 2-minute long voicemail message of me just streaming. So sorry, Adam, didn't mean it. But yeah, I had a full interview process with them, contract signing. Did a team talk, took training with them. It was mad. I've been booed out of the changing rooms at Kings Lynn because by the time I got to go and meet them, I was 2 seasons in and got rid of them all and replaced them with better players. So I walked in and they just all booed me, and I was like, "Sorry, lads. I mean, we're in League Two now. what do you want me to do?" And there's been lots of cool stuff where I've worked with clubs, but the most recent one was with Burton Albion, who I'm now managing in Non-League to Legend, where I got a DM from them on Twitter the other week saying, "Hey, Kev, we love what you're doing. Would you be interested in being involved in announcing a new signing for us in real life?"
Oh,
well, yes, I might be. That sounds like something I might just be interested in. Yes, and we ended up having a call about it, and they were like, "Yeah, so this is who we're signing." And I'm like, "Well, now I know who you're signing."
Privileged information.
I learned that apparently media with the new signings takes place days before they're announced. I mean, I learned so much through this process. It's like, we're doing all the media with him tomorrow. We're going to announce it on Thursday. They ended up announcing their new manager on Thursday, so they didn't do the announcement of the player until Friday. So it's like, so you knew you were signing him on Tuesday, and you didn't announce it until Friday. Football's fascinating.
And the gaffer's changing, and he knows as well. Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, they said, we want to do something kind of Football Manager related. We obviously like what you're doing. Can you do a couple of little 20, 30-second videos for Twitter in the style of your Non-League to Legend videos, but announcing a new player for us? So one where you're like, I think I need a new striker, let's go and look for one. And then one where you're actually announcing the guy who comes in. And my first instinct is, in only 30 seconds.
Context.
Yeah. Excuse me? Only
I don't do TikTok, I'm afraid.
Yeah, exactly. But we So I did the first video really easy. Just like, okay, so we need to sign a striker. Go to the player search screen, put in striker, easy. Oh, we can't. This Messi guy might be a little bit outside of our price range. That one was easy. The second one, knowing that it was Joe Hugill from Manchester United, they were signing on loan, trying to find the combination of attributes to put into my search that passed the realism test of these are the attributes I would genuinely look for, but would also put him on the shortlist. I must have spent an hour being like, okay, so if he's got finishing of 15, heading of 14, if I put his natural fitness up to 18, it really does narrow it down. This is good. But who's searching for natural fitness? I can't include that one in there. And the problem that kept coming up that I ended up having to just leave in the video, and people on my stream claim they noticed because I told this story on there, but I don't think anybody noticed. But we basically narrowed it down to like 6 or 7 players. Hugo was one of them. The other one was Miles Leeburn, who is my starting striker in Non-League to Legend. And I could not get a combination of attributes that gave me Hugill and didn't give me Leeburn. And I was like, people are just going to be like, Kev, why did you just ignore the guy you've been using for 3 seasons to sign Hugill? And that was just me getting far too far inside my own head. Obviously, people were just like, this is really cool. And no one came to me and was like, you should have signed Leeburn. But I spent so long trying to get him off the list because I was convinced it would ruin the whole thing because I'm so into the realism. If I don't sign the guy who's proven for us, that's madness.
I love those combinations. Right, he needs handling of 2. He's a striker. Why am I searching handling?
Yeah,
like, he can't be any taller than 184.
I mean, luckily,
maybe that's too tall.
Luckily, Hugo was a big guy who's a good finisher, so we managed to do it. And I think I managed to get it. So if I set finishing and jumping reach to like 15, he was one of 6 or 7 players who came up, and it's like, that's fine because most of them are outside of our price range. We're going to pretend Leeburn doesn't exist, just not to acknowledge he's on the list. Hugill is there. If I do it quickly and be like, oh, there's a guy from Manchester United, maybe he's available on a season-long loan, bang, straight in. And managed to hide all of the panic that was going on in the background, and they loved it, and it went down really well. I think the last time I checked, between the 2 videos, they'd had over 500,000 views on Twitter, so it went bonkers. I got the joy of making the announcement before Fabrizio Romano, and then having Burton tweet to confirm that. It's like, sorry Fab, Kev did beat you to this one. And it was just really cool. It brought in a whole influx of actual Burton fans. So I've now got that really cool situation where I've got loads of fans of the actual club watching me manage their club in the Premier League. And that's awesome. But yeah, again, it's just another example of something absolutely bonkers. It literally came out of nowhere. 3 weeks ago, they didn't even follow me on Twitter. I see you, Burton. You say you love what I do. You followed me an hour before you sent that DM. But yeah, it's mad. Who knows what's going to happen next? It's insane.
And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? That right there, that sentence. Who knows what's going to happen next?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to Rome in a couple of months to go and see a Roma game. So I've been managing them. If Tammy Abraham wants to meet for a pizza, I know you're injured at the moment, Tammy. If you want to just have a pizza somewhere in Rome before the match, I'll put it out there in the universe. You are one of my favourite Football Manager players ever, Tammy. We are very tight. We're both called Kev.
You go way back, don't you?
Yeah, come on, Tammy. I've got your shirt now. Let's have a pizza somewhere in Rome. I will buy you a pizza, Tammy Abraham.
I mean, what you've also failed to realise, Kev, is there's a job going in Roma right now. You might as well go and take the job.
I mean, they know where to find me. That seems to be a thing that's happening more and more. When I went to see Burton, when I first got the Burton job, I went to do a match day vlog there, and they lost, and there was protests after the match as I was leaving about the previous manager. And as I was driving home, they announced on the radio that he'd been fired. So within an hour of me being in the ground, they'd fired the manager. And with Mourinho the other day, I literally booked the tickets to Rome and then mentioned on stream that I was actually going to be going to Rome to go and see a match. And then the next morning he got fired. And it's like, okay, there might be something to this.
Lightning doesn't strike twice.
Yeah.
Well, as they say, luck is when preparation meets opportunity, Kev. So Would you like to manage Roma? Yeah, why
I'll
not?
give it a shot. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to telecommute. I don't really want to move to Italy, but I'll come over for match days if they can sort me out of a private jet. It's fine.
Yeah. Financially, I can't. It's too unrealistic. So.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm stuck very much in the West Midlands at this point. So we'll get to where we get to. Right, Kev, this has been fantastic, which we knew it would be, and it's always been great to sit and chat to you. If obviously, first of all, please come back and talk again if we get the chance to do so.
Will do.
That'll be your fifth.
Yeah, this is number 4.
Yeah, this is
number 4. Yeah, I had the hat trick on the previous version of this. So yeah, this is number 4.
The hat trick, the keys to the toilet. You've now got the parking space. Credits for the canteen. You're pretty much on the payroll at this point now, and the pay is dreadful. So like I can just.
As with anything in life, I'm not as worried about the pay. I'm more concerned with making sure I've done it more often than Dr. Benji. So as long as he's less than 4, I'm fine.
Okay, excellent. That makes sense. So we'll make it Kevy 5 times.
Yeah, exactly.
If by some chance there are people listening who maybe don't know where to find you, and have obviously enjoyed this and figure, you know what, I'm going to go and have a watch of this. Where can people find you?
You can, go looping all the way back round to tips for how to start a YouTube channel. Don't do what I've done, because I'm about to say a word that you don't know how to say or spell. But if you search for Lollujo, which is a made-up word, and it's spelled Lollujo, then you'll be able to find. I'm Lollujo everywhere, even TikTok now. I finally managed to get my name on TikTok as well after someone camping on it for years, which there's every chance the person camping on it was me from years ago, and I just forgot the password. But yeah, I'm Lollujo everywhere, so just search for that. There shouldn't be anyone else called that, because it's a stupid made-up name, and I wish I hadn't have picked it.
Well, there you go. Get yourself involved. Go and follow Kev. One thing I should have said this earlier, by the way, and it seems weird to say it now. We're just starting to wrap up. We have a mutual friend as well. I believe Jamie Hutchinson, comedian, has been commenting on quite a lot of your work at the minute.
He's been name dropping me a bit. I've never actually spoken to him.
He's a big fan. He's a big fan.
So it seems, yeah. If he wants to have me on his podcast.
Oh well, yeah. I've reached out on both of our behalves, Kev. So.
Excellent.
Yeah, we tried to get him in over here. Obviously, he's busy. He's busy touring at the minute. But we saw he posted up this clip about the team talks. He tagged both of us in it, and I've sort of been catching up. He's just like, I watch Lollujo all the time on YouTube. I'm like, brilliant, good taste, very good taste.
Absolutely, yeah.
Excellent. Right, cool. Kev, thank you so much for that. Obviously, we will quickly wrap the show up, and I should have said this earlier on. I'm going to do a quick roundup and a quick thank you to everyone who joined us on Patreon this week alone. We've had Aaron Walk, Matthew Gunderson, I'm going to say this one wrong, Kev, Ole and Alexander Eidsvold.
I mean, I can't say how it's spelled, so I'm going to assume you've nailed that.
Yeah, that's exactly how it's pronounced. Kieran J, I can get that one right. Dan Scott and Christopher Grube, and that might be Gruber as well. So fantastic to see so many new members of the Patreon squad. And if, of course, you want to come and join us over on Patreon, link in the description below. You can follow all of us on social media. Of course, that's been flashed up on the screen. It's at the FM Show Pod. And if you want to follow us, drop us an email. It is, of course, the FM Show Pod at gmail.com. That was episode 28 of the FM Show, of course, hosted by myself, Tony Jameson. Our guest today, Lollujo. We had no producer still. He's still moving house. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Want to learn even more about Football Manager? Subscribe to the Patreon. Just visit patreon.com/thefmshowpod. Don't forget to rate and review, and follow along on the socials at the FM Show Pod.